Shri Hardeep Singh Puri is an Indian politician and a former civil servant who's currently serving as the Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas and the Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs in India. He's a 1974 batch Indian Forest Services officer who served as the permanent resident of India to the United Nations from 2009 to 2013. Previously, Mr. Puri has also served as the chairman of the United Nations Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Committee and joined the International Peace Institute as a senior advisor. Thank you very much, Mr. Puri, and over to you to address our audience.
Thank you very much, Madhav. I hope I am audible.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let me start by congratulating WRI India for completing 10 years. And as the previous keynote speaker reminded us, to 10 years of impactful work. Without doubt, I think WRI India has established itself as a pioneer in research and advocacy in urban development and sustainability. I want to start by congratulating all of you that you have a chairperson of such eminence, Mr. Jamshed Godrej, and I'm not saying it because he's virtually joined with us here. But if you look at the kind of work you are doing and the kind of ecosystem of support that you require, I feel very privileged that you have somebody like Jamshed Godrej and the previous speaker, whose brilliant exposition of what the urban challenges are and the work that Omidyar has been doing. I'm very happy. I can tell you, I have seen firsthand the excellent support which has been provided for the government, for the Global Housing Technology Challenge under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and on other projects such as Amrut, urban transport, climate smart cities. There can be absolutely no doubt that India's cities, enabled by citizen-centric infrastructure and transformational technology, will be the key to achieving the nation's objectives. So we need civil society, we need all others who are doing academic work on specific areas relating to this rapid urbanization. During the pandemic, we learned a few lessons. And I think the previous speaker brilliantly brought out how this pandemic in particular impacted on the urban poor. But I can tell you with a sense of humility and some confidence that we were able to address that. The very fact that the Prime Minister's program was able to feed 800 million people, 80 crore is 800 million people over an entire year by providing the rations for 3 meals in a day. Also, that the other lessons we learned, for instance, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has reached a point of maturity. We have sanctioned 1 crore 13 lakh units, but we discovered that there are people who come looking for work to the urban centers as part of an autonomous urbanization that has taken place. And we immediately moved for a new scheme, which is to provide affordable rental housing. And I'm delighted to find that this scheme, started only recently, has begun to take off. Equally, I think the ability to manage a pandemic also is going to be defined by the nature of your response. We took a bashing, we took a pretty bad beating at one stage, but I can tell you again with confidence, I was one of those as a member of the group of ministers dealing with the pandemic to say that, look, it is the pandemic which is the virus which is the enemy. Virus is or COVID is not the name of a political party, and you cannot do political point scoring. And I'm very, I must say, reassured to tell you that we are on top of the pandemic in terms, on top only in terms of the vaccination. The virus is a completely unpredictable phenomena. You don't know what shape it will take. But the fact that we have already administered, what, 740 million doses administered. If you look at the populations of countries, take the United States, Europe, and you will have to add a few, it doesn't add up to 740 million. But the good news, as my friend Mansukh Mandavia tells me, is that in September, total we'll have 200 million October will produce another 300 million. So with again great humility and confidence, I can tell you is that by the time we reach end October or mid-November, we would be able to say, listen guys, pandemics are difficult to predict, as the previous speaker said, but to the extent that we can provide a response as a government, but that government response would be not even half complete if we did not have civil society, our well-meaning citizens, NGOs, and people like yourself joining in to make those cities, livable. So let me start by saying that I feel that this discussion on equitable, sustainable urbanization is highly relevant. India's urban areas will drive the economy in the coming years. By 2030, almost 70% of the national GDP will come from our cities as rapid urbanization facilitates efficiencies of agglomerations. The best performing cities globally contribute 5 times more to national GDP than comparable Indian cities. We need to generate a similar density of economic activity from our cities to answer the calls of our Honorable Prime Minister of becoming, as again, as one of you said, $5 trillion economy in the short term and a $10 trillion economy by 2030. I am certain that Atmanirbhar India will only be possible if our cities are productive, and I see that process taking place. 4 years ago, when I was initially inducted into the Council of Ministers, and I saw the staggering canvas of activities, I used to say, and I'm now convinced about that, that the Modi government has undertaken the most comprehensive and ambitious program of urban rejuvenation undertaken anywhere in the world. And as a small pointer to that, I can tell you that if you look at what our cities will have in terms of population by 2030, I used to say 600 million, but whoever has done the research for my interaction with you tells me, no, it may be close to 630 million. Well, if it is 630 million, what have we done right and what can we do more? Look, let me tell you, in the 10 years of the Congress-led UPA government between 2004 and 2014, the total amount of money or expenditure incurred on all the urban schemes was somewhere in the order of 1,57,000 crores. And I can tell you, in the 7.5 years of the Modi government, which is actually 6.5 because the urban schemes took a year in terms of conceptualization and drawing up, and they really started in June 2015. We have spent 6.5 times that amount. It is more than 11 lakh crore. But more than that, I think what we have got right, apart from the physical targets, is through our collaboration with yourselves, WRI, OMDR, other members. I can name quite a few. I mean, my friends in Bangalore, they're coming up and giving us ideas on how truly to make our cities actually demonstration hubs, and it is reflecting itself. If you look at the lighthouse projects, what are they called? The 6 Global Housing Technology Challenge, which we have implemented, where we are building 1,000 units in 6 places over a 1-year period using the most advanced green technologies. Also the others, but I'm also clear that much more needs to be done, and that much more has to reflect itself in the kind of interaction that we've had. During the pandemic, I was delighted that the smart cities, for instance, those smart cities, again, this is a project that started in June 2015, and we have to complete each of them within 5 years of, but the last smart city was, I think, announced only in 2018. We have about 70 integrated command and control centers. They acted as war rooms during the pandemic, and they were able to both, with the use of technology, not only ensure that we were able to access resources, but also direct them in order to meet the challenges that the pandemic has underneath. I spent, I think, Madhav, when you introduced me, you perhaps meant the Indian Foreign Service. And maybe I heard you wrong. But I had the privilege of, 39 years spending in the Indian Foreign Service. And I can tell you one healthy debate, one that I was really proud of, was that, the United Nations system thought that the Sustainable Development Goals were born when the UN adopted those 17 goals. Let me tell you, that's not entirely the picture. But let me give you a little bit of history. Before the Sustainable Development Goals, we had the Millennium Development Goals. Now, the conceptualization of the Millennium Development Goals was done in the think tank of the West, the OECD. And they were successful. The MDGs became successful in the end because the MDGs succeeded in lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, primarily in China, and with some help from countries like India, Nigeria, and others. But the Sustainable Development Goals, when it came to their conceptualization, I was one of those as ambassador to the UN to say, listen, guys, this time it can't be done in the think tank of the West. No, I like the OECD. Please don't misunderstand me. But you have to evolve your goals through citizen-centric interaction at the grassroots level. And that is what is beautiful about the SDGs. But what is even more remarkable, Mr. Modi started introducing the SDGs in June 2015. This whole business about, 11, goal 11, inclusive cities, or goal 5, or, on women's empowerment. We started doing it earlier. The SDGs were formally launched. You can say that there was an interactive process, and some of us were working both on SDGs in New York and in our capital. But by the time we reached the adoption of the SDGs at the UN level, India already had its coordinates and position. And again, I want to make a statement which might sound a little startling, but Mr. Agarwal, I've been a long-standing admirer of your work, and I can tell you, SDGs will succeed because India will succeed. And because India will succeed, the SDGs will succeed. Because there is so much riding on India now. Whether it is our cities, primarily, or the other sustainable development goals. The appointed Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, somebody I worked with, I had the privilege of working with. Madhav mentioned the International Peace Institute, where I was Senior Vice President. Its chair was Kevin Rudd. He was also the Secretary General of the Independent Commission, of which I was the Secretary General. So somebody asked him, these guys are a little strange. Here you have a diplomat with 39 years of experience, and you appoint him Housing Minister. He said, but you guys have missed the point. I mean, as PR, he was dealing with sustainable development goals. So the form and shape of diplomacy has changed. And I think that what we are able to do through Connect Karo, through yourself, not only with the finest minds in India, but through international audiences with which all of you are related, and WRI, I think we're able to bring the best of practices into our, into our daily work. I could go on about, urban mobility. I could go on and on about the master plans, etc. But I think we have a slight time issue here. But let me take up a few of the ideas which are incorporated in the work that we are doing. On non-motorized transport, we are supporting public transport and non-motorized transport options across the country. Currently, we have 721 kilometers of metro lines operational in 18 cities and a network of 1,058 kilometers under construction in 27 cities. We are also looking at more affordable and more cost-efficient modes through Metro Light and New Metro. A central funding of something like rupees 88,059 crores will be provided to 4 metro projects. We are developing 10 cities as freight smart cities to reduce final mile freight movement, and we have already requested state governments to identify cities for this prestigious project. Under the urban transport scheme, public bus transport services will be augmented by developing public-private partnership to finance over 20,000 buses. Before 2014, we had very few cities simultaneously plan transportation solutions alongside their master plan. When mobility is lacking, poorer urban residents who cannot afford to stay away from business districts cluster to create slums. I don't like the term. Informal settlements where demand for infrastructure outstrips supply. The importance of mobility cannot be overstated. So I'm very happy that all these issues, I mean, the need is to move people around, not to move cars around. So that very fact that we are able to look at this in a holistic manner, I think gives us satisfaction. We have synergized other flagship initiatives such as the Digital India Mission and Make in India Mission by recently launching the National Urban Digital Mission, which co-creates urban solutions through a shared digital infrastructure. But I now want to come forward. When the Swachh Bharat Mission was launched, I think it was the fulcrum of our urban this thing, because unless Swachh Bharat had succeeded, all the other flagship programs would have had difficulty. But the Swachh Bharat Mission succeeded not because we were able to meet the physical targets, but as I had an occasion to tell the Honorable Prime Minister recently, the Swachh Bharat Mission succeeded because we were able to convert a program of the government into a Jan Andolan, a people's movement. And I'm very happy that in the last budget, if I remember correctly, the Finance Minister had provided an outlay for Jal Jeevan Mission Urban with an outlay of rupees 2.8 lakh crores to ensure universal water supply in all 4,378 urban local bodies in India and enable liquid waste management in 500 cities under the Amrut scheme. She also mentioned a figure of 1.41 lakh crores for Swachh Bharat Phase 2. I mean, Swachh Bharat, yes, you met the physical targets. Cities have to be certified as open defecation free through third-party verification, not self-certification. But Swachh Bharat Mission 2 will look at sludge management, wastewater treatment, source segregation of garbage and reduction in single-use plastics, control of air pollution by waste management in construction and demolition, and bioremediation dump sites. Many of these areas were taken up by Mr. Jamshed Godrej. They were mentioned by the keynote speaker. So I think we are all headed in the right direction. The challenges are formidable. I very often, when I go around and I find something which is anxiety causing, but what is reassuring is I take a photograph, I take a snapshot, put it on their thing, and your action to address it is immediately. Whether you're looking for an urban toilet, for which we have a Google app, or you're looking for other kind. And for those of you who have the time, come and visit us here. We have an urban observatory, which is almost using technology, able to tell us whether, like in the past, we are doing projects on paper, or we can actually see the progress of the project using drone technology or using satellite imagery. In fact, when we made a presentation, we meaning the project made a presentation to the Honorable Prime Minister on the 6 those construction projects as part of the Global Technology Challenge. The presentation was made using real-time data being taken by drones and other technology available, so you can see what is actually going on the spot at that point. So once again, sorry, I maybe overstepped my time limit, and that's why I ran 5 minutes late in the last program. But I overstepped it, but I also deviated from my notes. I'll have my notes put out, but I can tell you, and I don't say it just because you guys are here, I feel truly energized and inspired when I interact with a group like this. Let me wish Connect Karo 2021 all the best. I think you have got something like 35 sessions of different issues lined up. And what I will do is that if I can finish my next few meetings and I have a little bit of time, I'll just zoom in just to take advantage. So thank you very much. God bless, and I wish you more strength.